and welcome back to News with Lindsay. I apologize for the acne medication on my face. Anyways, the first story we'll be covering today is called Catching Some Z's. In October of 2020, the US military had stated and recommended short and frequent naps to restore wakefulness and promote performance. This strategy helps promote mental health in the military as well as physical health too. Soldiers sometimes go days and nights without sleep, and this new guideline can seriously improve skill and liveliness, as well as individual mental health.
In this image, you can see exactly why it improves your mental health. Your body releases important hormones, your brain recharges, and your cells can replenish themselves.
Other branches of the military, such as the US Navy, have followed these steps and created new sleep scheduling to benefit their soldiers mentally and physically as well. Combat is a thinking man's business, and your brain doesn't function without sleep. This is a quote stated from Lieutenant General David Barno, commander of Combined Forces in Afghanistan from 2003 to 2005. He means that your best cognitive state in the military is when you're well rested and focused. In conclusion, this is why napping can solve sleep deprivation in the military. Maybe I'll be joining the military to help my sleep schedule. The second newest news story I'll be covering is, do junk food ads really make you hungry? Honestly, if you ask me, it's a yes, and the facts agree with me too. Food companies spend billions of dollars a year to market their products to young people and keep them craving more. There was an experiment conducted in the UK that shows a restaurant using the same techniques as junk food advertisers in the US, and you'll never believe what happened. 8 teens were invited to a restaurant where they all were given a closed envelope, and the freedom of picking whatever food they wanted off the menu. What they didn't know is that the one meal, triple dipped chicken, was written down in each envelope as a prediction, and that was the food that all teens chose. How did the experiment conductors do this? By using the same techniques as junk food advertisers. Wow, now that is some powerful marketing. Next up, America's fastest teen. In August of 2020, 18-year-old Athing Mu was supposed to spend her summer at the Olympics. Unfortunately, due to COVID, they're postponed to 2021. But honestly, experts say that could benefit her in the long run. This way, she'll have an extra year of training and be more experienced competing against the older runners. Although COVID-19 might have upended her plans, she is not giving up. Next news story, why is China flooding? They finally get the coronavirus under control, and now it's flooding. They can't catch a break. This flooding is caused by unusually heavy rains, more than double the seasonal average. This is happening in central and southern areas of China. By mid-August of 2020, the flooding has affected at least 63 million civilians. Experts say it's worsening, and climate change is most likely the culprit. This is an image of Puyang Lake, where most of the damage is being caused. The leaders are working hard to reassure the civilians, but they are scared. One woman said, "Humanity is insignificant in the face of disaster." And unfortunately, that seems to be true. The next report is World News. What now in Syria? This article covers how Donald Trump's decision to pull US troops from Syria has upended the nation's brutal civil war, and what it means for the US. US troops had been in Syria helping them fight ISIS, but in October, Donald Trump made an announcement to pull them out. This decision caused an uproar in Congress between Democrats and Republicans. By pulling out, the US left Kurdish militias in Syria, and the Kurdish militias had fought with us side by side against ISIS. To give you the rundown, the Syrian civil war was the Syrians fighting against the Assad regime. It grew violent as the Assad regime used chemical weapons to fight. The war had killed more than 500,000 people, fully displacing the country's pre-war population of 22 million. The destruction in Syria is colossal. and a lot of the country has been reduced to piles of rubble. In a lot of places, it's hard to find water and electricity. Not only were their resources destroyed, but the middle class was as well. So why is the US part of this? Well, they stayed on the sidelines for most of the war, but the upheaval of civil war gave Islamic terrors like ISIS a chance to flourish in Syria. With the growing threat of ISIS, the US decided to get involved. In 2018, the number of US troops peaked at 2,000. And in 2018, President Trump announced that ISIS was defeated and decided to bring the US troops home. So why did he pull most of them out last month? In his words, "I was elected on getting out of these ridiculous endless wars." So there you have it. That's why he pulled them out. After he pulled out, it was Turkey against Syria. Back at home, President Trump has received as much support as he has criticism for his decision. Some people think it's good, and others just call it chaos. I guess we have to just leave it to the Democrats and Republicans to figure it out. Our last story today is called Alone at the Border. This depressing story talks about children being taken from their parents and vice versa when crossing the border. Reporters say that when the kids are taken, the facilities they are put in are just like torture facilities. The conditions they're put in are cruel and unfair. There's no access to hand washing and very little food. The lights were also on 24/7, so they were never able to sleep. Although it's illegal, most of these people have traveled miles and are just seeking better lives. And recently, the number of people trying to cross the border has been more than it ever has before. This year alone, more than 500,000 people were stopped at the border trying to illegally enter. Trump has called for these people to be arraigned as criminals. This just aids to children being separated from their families. Within 3 months, 2,600 kids had been taken from their families and put in these facilities. The Trump administration had actually announced an end to these separation facilities in 2018, but the practice continued. The following year, at least 900 children were taken and separated from their families. And because of this, the ACLU, or American Liberties Civil Union, is suing the American government. Some children had been speaking out too, and what they have to say is heartbreaking. One girl says she knows she's bigger than they are, but she's just a child too, and she needs comfort. She was separated from her sister and just wants to know if she's okay. Clearly, this is a big problem and needs to get figured out soon. The Trump administration needs to stop these rules from being in effect. Alright folks, that looks like it's all we have today. See you next time on News with Lindsay.